Come take a trip in my airship. Come take a sail among the stars. Come have a ride around.
Hello, and welcome to another podcast from Airship 27. I'm Chief Engineer Rob Davis, and alongside me here virtually is Captain Ron Fortier.
Greetings, loyal airmen, and the rumors of our passing and demise were greatly exaggerated.
It has been a little while.
It has been, only because we got off to a slow start this year. As you know, small publishers like Airship 27, we are basically at the whim of the currents. Let's put it like this. Yeah. Sometimes books and projects come swiftly down that river. Other times they just lackadaisically move along.
They're little eddies off to the side. They wait.
Right. So at the start of the year, it was slow going. And obviously we didn't see the need of doing a podcast just to twiddle our thumbs and bore you all silly until we had something of substance to share with you. And if you've been following us on social media, Facebook and whatever, you'll know the last month has been crazy. The log jam is busted. Yeah. And we have put out a tons of really, really awesome books. But hey, before we get into the usual rigmarole of fun and games and sarcastic remarks, Rob has a joke for us. So take it away, amigo.
Well, given that June is the month of weddings, I went searching for one related to weddings. And I've told several in the past. Have I told this one before? No, this particular one I have not. At least not that I remember. So, okay. Tim decided to tie the knot with his longtime girlfriend. One evening, after the honeymoon, he was organizing his golfing equipment. His wife was standing nearby watching him. After a long period of silence, she finally speaks. Tim, I've been thinking. Now that we're married, maybe it's time to quit golfing. You spend so much time on the course, you could probably get a good price for your clubs. Tim gets a horrified look on his face. She says, Darling, what's wrong? He says, For a minute there, you're beginning to sound like my ex-wife. Ex-wife, she screams. I didn't know you were married before. I wasn't, he replied. Think maybe this guy watched golf?
Wow. Wow. All right. Hey, talk. I've got to bring this up because of the subject matter of your joke, but our granddaughter here in Colorado, my granddaughter Cora and her fiance Calvin are getting married in September.
That's
the
cool.
First of our 6 grandchildren tied a knot. And of course, Valerie and I are wicked excited about all this. And they've picked a venue here in Fort Collins, right down by the Front Range, the hills. It's a vineyard. It's a vineyard that holds events.
Oh, wow.
So yesterday afternoon, after the monsoon season had passed, and I'm sure a lot of you out there are familiar with what we're talking about here, we had such a nice day that after Mass, midday, my daughter-in-law said, you guys want to take a ride and go see the venue where the wedding is going to take place? We said, sure. So we all hopped in together in the car and drove down to this beautiful vineyard. And they have this lodge and whatever, and that's, where it's going to take place. Going to be an outdoor wedding. Hopefully in September here, it'll still be nice. And I am tickled pink. I don't know if I might have told you, Rob, but I was very flattered and honored that Calvin and Cora asked me to officiate.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
I am psyched. I am absolutely psyched. So
okay.
Hopefully I don't blow it for them.
That seems to be a practice these days. You used to have to get a minister or a priest or whoever to officiate your wedding. But the wedding we went to in Washington, D.C. About a month ago now was officiated by a friend of the groom and the bride. which and she did an excellent job. She says, and with the power invested in me by the internet, because she'd taken some online course.
Right.
To
Yeah.
do,
I mean, there's a site where I can get a certificate.
Mm-hmm.
All right, which will allow me this, whatever. Believe it or not, I found this out after the fact with a local friend of mine. We were talking about this, and he tells you don't even need that. And I said, excuse me? No, you don't. All states are different, but the state of Colorado, you need nothing. Anybody can officiate a wedding, which was a startling piece of news.
Here's
But
the thing: they go down and get a license, right?
Right.
All you need is witnesses to the license. Period.
Right. Yeah.
You don't. It doesn't have to be done in a church.
Right. All those things.
If you want it recognized by the church, yes, you have to have it done in the church.
Right.
I mean, when I got married to my wife Teresa, she's Catholic. I'm Protestant, and I had to go through courses. We took months where I would go in and so they talked to us about marriage and about the church and all this, and I had to promise that the kids were brought up in the Catholic Church, and I said, well, seeing how well they did with Teresa and her siblings, no problem. So but
what I got to add is, see, you being Protestant, right? I'm a Catholic cradle, right?
Yeah.
So if I'd had to take those courses, I probably would have flunked. Sorry. Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. Enough tomfoolery here. Hey,
it is the week of weddings, so we had to talk about weddings. So yeah.
Right. All right. So hey, we put out. I'm trying to remember what we put out. 1, 2, 3, 5 books.
5 books? I was thinking
books.
4, but it's 5, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. We'll start off going back and forth and give some people some due credit. All right. Let me get going with this. Okay. Released since our last show, long ago. Mark Justice's
2 months ago. I looked.
Okay. Mark Justice's The Dead Sheriff, Volume 5, A Cold and Lonesome Grave, by Philip Pan. In this one, the zombie sheriff and his master, half-breed Cheveo, find themselves in the Canadian Rockies, where they encounter a family of Sasquatch, better known as Bigfoot. Rob is doing the artwork, has done the illustrations, and Michael Youngblood turned in such a really awesome pulp cover. I love that.
Yeah, we're lucky to have the people we do to do our covers, and Michael turned in a stellar one here. It shows Sasquatch and the dead sheriff on the cover in a snowy background with red splotches on it.
I am so happy we've been able to keep this series going. As I said, this is Volume 5 of The Dead Sheriff. Mark had only penned the actual first volume before he passed away.
And a part of the second, if I remember right, that you
which I completed, which was the second book in the series. And through talks with his wife Norma Kay, who's an angel, a wonderful, wonderful woman, we got permission and the rights to continue the series. So here we go. We've done 5 so far, and who knows how many more on the horizon. But hey, as Weird Westerns go, this is the tops. This is the tops.
Yeah, each one seems to get better too. I mean, I'm the one prior to this one literally creeped me out. It really did. This one did. It's a different kind of creepy. The one character, the bad guy in this one, is pretty serious and pretty impressive. It's a great story. If you like weird westerns that will horrify you just a little bit and creep you out a little bit, this is the book for you.
Okay, so hot on its heels. What did we have next?
The Silver Pentacle by Nancy Hansen, the second in this fantasy adventure about the Earth after an apocalyptic event. A star being arrives and begins to assemble a team of super beings to save the future of the world. Colorado-based artist Guy Davis provides both the interior illustrations and a beautiful color cover.
Yeah, and once again, we've had this serendipitous luck of finding the right artist for the right book. Whereas, as
Yeah.
we all know, Nancy rarely writes solo books. She's into series. And so
Yeah.
right up front, knowing that this was going to be the case with Silver Pentacle series, we had recruited Guy to do the artwork for the first volume. When Nancy saw it, Nancy flipped out. She was tickled pink. I didn't waste a single minute sitting down with Guy and saying,
his style fits the book. It really does.
right, this is your series if you want it. And he happily said, because he loved reading her books. So we've done 2. This is the second now. Please check it out. These books are amazing, a lot of fun. Nancy has written a 3rd, which I have in the files, and I'm giving Guy a chance to breathe, get caught up, do some of his comic book work.
Yeah.
And hopefully by the end of the summer, I'll pass along that 3rd manuscript to him and get him going on doing the art for Silver Pentacle number 3. All right.
Yep.
Okay. So talking about, series as opposed, we did have a one-shot, which I had a lot of fun with, and I think you did as well, which was The Lucifer Stone by Bob Madison. This is Bob's first work for Airship 27, and it's an old-fashioned pulp adventure with a college professor discovering a strange meteorites containing powerful energy that a bunch of gangsters have somehow gotten a hold of, and he has to get them back before they do all kinds of damage. Kevin Paul Shaw Broden provided the interior illustrations, and once again, our amigo Adam Shaw turned in such a great cover. But one which, again, this one inspired by one of the greatest American illustrators of all time, J.C. Leyendecker. And the story behind that is simply, I read the book, Kevin does all our interior illustrations, and I'm like scratching my head. What do we put on the cover of this? What do we put on the cover of this? And there's a great little action sequence where our college professor, armed with the thigh bone of a dinosaur, and this spunky girl Friday, all right, who wheels a Colt 45 6-shooter in her purse, are facing off against the gangsters, right? And I went, oh, if I can only get the 2 of them on that cover, right? And so, much like yourself, Rob, in doing publishing, I keep folders and folders of images I see on the net that I like.
I call them work file, yeah.
Right, that maybe someday. So I've got one entire folder dedicated to J.C. Leyendecker, whose work has always made me just go, wow, what a talent. All right.
Yeah, he's from the same school as Norman Rockwell. It's
exactly.
The same stuff, yeah.
Right. So going through it, right, what do I find? I find a piece of the proper era couple, side by side, walking along, but it's a golfer and his girlfriend is a tennis player.
Yeah. I
get a hold of Adam, and I told Adam, can you do a cover inspired by this composition? In other words, take away the golf, accoutrements and give them the dinosaur thigh bone, take away her badminton racket and give her a 6-shooter. Man, when I saw that finished piece, I was in tears, so freaking happy. And and Adam's such a professional and really talented. At the bottom, his little signature, you'll see the bottom. It says, Adam Shaw, from
J.C. Leyendecker. Yeah.
Yep. So hey, I love sharing this stuff because believe me, we get these ideas from left field on what ends up in our books and on our covers. All right, your turn, amigo.
All right, next on the list here is Solitaire. And this is a spy thriller by Lee Houston Jr. It's another fast-paced actioner, if I can get that out.
The coffee hasn't kicked in yet.
Put my teeth in a little better. Think Mission Impossible and James Bond all kind of rolled in together. A lone agent versus an evil conglomerate. Artist Chuck Bordell provides the interior illustrations, and Ted Hammond, another one of those artists that we're so lucky to have, has put in a super colorful cover. Now, this is it doesn't mention it here, but in your description that you wrote for me, but it's a female and she's a costumed character. It's a black costume like a ninja outfit with almost a goggles type thing here. But and as usual, Ted has knocked it out of the park. Beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
Can't
Right.
I always enjoy. I wait with great anticipation when he's doing a cover to see what he does with it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Again, he's knocked it out of the park.
Never miscue. I asked him for a cat burglar in a skin tight black
Yep.
ninja like suit.
Yeah, in a
And
cat suit.
there it was. Of course, Lee almost had a stroke when he saw it. But hey, that came out of your brain, my friend. So and this looks to be a series. Apparently, Lee is working on a second solitaire adventure. So
Yep.
hey, kudos, way to go. And
Very
finally, the one we just released last week, which we've talked about before in some of our earlier podcasts, The Blood Spiller's Quarry, book number 1 of the Stone Law series by Michael Panush, a fantastic pulp mashup, a caveman murder mystery.
Yeah.
This book is tons of fun with great art by Earl Geyer, who not only does the interior illustrations, but the fantastic cover, which we recruited Rob to color. Again, one of those cases where, first of all, let me tell you, I am nominating this book for the Pulp Factory Awards as best novel. All right. I mean, this mashup screams pulp. All right. Caveman murder mystery. Come on. All right. Michael is such a gifted writer. And as it turns out, thank you to all the pulp gods above, the matching of him and Earl Geyer was priceless. It really worked like a charm.
Yes.
So
yes.
Earl's turning in all these, spot illustrations, which, Rob's assembling to put the book together. And I'm saying to myself, we should get one of these things on the cover. But Earl's not comfortable with doing coloring. I know Rob has, and he's colored quite a few of our books, covers. So it was just a case of, hey, Rob, you think you could take one of these and color it? Rob happily joined in. We found what I thought was the perfect image.
Yeah, it works well as a cover image. Yeah.
Right.
I had to play with it a little bit, threw it in Photoshop, and had to because his illustration wasn't quite tall enough. When you put the logo on top, the characters had to be a little lower on it, so I had to add some to the top and the sides, but I got it to work and then threw the color in there, and it came together really well. His work, it really accepts color very well, so it was an easy job, really, to be honest.
Oh, there you go. Hey, look, yeah, I want to mention this because just yesterday afternoon, one of our good friends and a pulp reviewer, Michael Housel, just posted a review of Blood Spiller on his blog site. I've copied the link and posted it up on Facebook and LinkedIn and other places. But it is a fantastic review. Go check it out if you're at all curious. And as ever, so, let's, make this always clear. All the books that we've just mentioned are all up at Amazon, available in paperback and on Kindle.
Yep.
So there you go.
You can find the links at airship27hangar.com. And hangar is HANGAR, as in the airplane hangar or airship hangar. So yeah, airship27hangar.com. You go there and it'll take you to the catalog that we have, and you can find a link to every one of our books. And the way I set up the website is that the newest releases are at the top. If it's a new series, it goes to the very top. If it's an addition to an existing series, it's at the top of the listing for that series. And you go to the website, check it out. I've tried to make it as easy as possible to navigate. It doesn't work perfectly on a phone. I have or a small screen, but that takes a lot more work than I have time to do. So if you use your laptop or your or iPad, it works okay on an iPad, but on your phone it's a little bit too small. But yeah, head over there and check out what we got. All 5 of these books plus everything we've ever done is listed on there. Yep.
We're getting close to 300.
Buy your sponsor, Airship 27 Hangar.
Oh, hey, okay. So now we're a quick look at a couple of books that for whatever might have been included in this list this month. But I mean, that's how close they are to being published. Both of them only need covers. And once those covers come in, the proofreading is done. They're off to the printers. So I'll take the first one, Rob, and that's After Sunset. It's a great Western standalone novel by Jonathan Casey. And artist Sam Salas has finished all the interior illustrations, and our dear friend Shannon Hall is now doing the cover. So this is a traditional, straight up, old-fashioned Western. What a great little story in it that I think people will enjoy a great deal. So the cover comes in, and we get this out. And also going neck and neck with it, Rob, is...
Yeah, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Volume 19. And I'm the illustrator of the Sherlock Holmes books. This book, I initially wanted this to be out in time for Windy City, but stuff kept falling into place and getting in the way. And so it took me a lot longer than I had planned on to get this one done. But it features 4 stories, one by Jonathan Casey, one by I.A. Watson, and 2 by Ray Lovato. As ever, yours truly did the interior illustrations, and Howard Simpson is as we speak working on the cover. And Howard's got a lot of stuff going on, so it'll take him a little while to get this done. Plus, he's also a perfectionist. Seriously, he wants to put out the best work possible, so he takes his time and is very meticulous. So
for sure.
I can't wait to see what he comes out with, because
we've seen the composition. Now, he gave us like 3 or 4 different ideas for compositions, and Rob, between us, picked one that we like, which I think is dramatic as all get out. So I can't wait to see it finalized and realized. The last thing Howard did for us was a cover, and that was to Bulldog Drummond 3, which knocked our socks off. It got such reviews. Yeah,
it's very, very reminiscent of the pulpy covers. That very painterly. It looks like he's painted. I don't know if he does it with actual paint or whether he uses like a Photoshop or a painter to do it on his computer. But it looks like an oil painting. And like I said, he's very meticulous and he's got a great composition sense. So I can't wait to see what he comes up with here. Yeah.
So hey, I got to tell you. So now that 19 is pretty much in the can, we're just waiting, right? We do have to talk about the big project of the year, all right, which is going to be our anniversary issue of the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Series, volume number 20. Now, I.A. Watson, our good friend from England, who has been in every single volume, basically hit me and Rob up a little over a year ago about the fact that, hey, you guys know you're coming up to number 20. Don't you think you should have some kind of a big wig anniversary kind of thing for this? All right. So we agreed. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. All right. We can, really play it up big and have some fun with it and promote it. And hopefully all our fans who have made this series such a best-selling series for us. All right. Maybe, I tend to look at this, Rob, as our gift to them as well, all right? Because they've stuck with us for 19 volumes of this year, over almost, 8-9 years. So, yeah, let's give them something they're not going to forget. They'll bowl over any diehard Sherlock Holmes fan. So that being the case, it's going to be a giant issue. From the literary sense, we're going to have a lot more stories than we normally do in an average volume, all right? We're bringing back some of the regular and some of the best Sherlock Holmes writers we've ever used, all right, that have proven themselves, okay? So I.A. Watson's going to be there with a cocker of a story that just it's gonna bowl people over. And then Ray Lovato's there, and I think Jonathan Casey and Teal James Glenn heard what we were doing, jumped in. He's never done a Sherlock Holmes for us. He's on board. And the one I'm the happiest about is one of the guys who started out with us with the Sherlock Holmes book and Airship 27 was our Canadian amigo, Andrew Salmon. And Andrew is right now wrapping up his story. He said, no way I want this thing out without my name in there.
First couple of volumes, if I remember.
Yeah. Well, he won the Pulp Factory Award for Best Short Story.
Yeah.
For the Locked Room Mystery, all right?
Yeah.
Which I still love that thing.
And he's done some other Sherlock Holmes stories for, I'm blanking on who he did it for and but he's done several other Sherlock Holmes
Well,
stories.
he worked with Paul Bishop when Paul Bishop started
Right.
his little boxing series called Fight Card,
Right.
and he created a female character who worked with Sherlock Holmes,
That's
Ebby
it. Yep.
Stokes. All right. Well, they've even now published an omnibus of all his Ebby Stokes books, and I think he's got a new novel out now. And one of our old friends, artist Mike Files, has done the
Right.
the illustrations and covers for those books. So they're absolutely beautiful. Go to Amazon, check them all out. And again, like I said, I am tickled pink. It wouldn't have been right to do this volume without Andrew on board.
He was excited when you asked him. He was excited to jump in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So we know it's going to be thick with stories. I'll let Rob tell you his plans for the actual format.
Well, this is going to be a quite different book. It's going to be the story that Ian Watson has written for us is essentially Murder at the Strand. And the Strand magazine, as any Sherlock Holmes fan knows, is the magazine that published most, if not all, of the Sherlock Holmes books. I mean, the very first one was a Christmas special, Beaton's Christmas special, but most everything else after that was published in the Strand magazine, a British magazine. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it look like the cover is going to be very similar to what the Strand would put out. I'm going to try and recreate the logo, and plus the interior. Ian Watson has kind of teamed up with me, and we're going to come up with advertisements inside the book. So we're essentially trying to recreate the look of an actual Strand magazine. Now, I had thought about doing it in a larger size, 7x10, but Amazon is upping the price on printing bigger size books, so I'll probably keep it at 6x9. But it'll definitely be thicker. I don't know if this is going to be a doorstop or not, like Legends of New Pulp is, but it's going to be it's going to be oversized. Still don't know what the price point's going to be. We'll have to see how many pages it has, how much it costs. But I'm going to try and keep that within reason if I can. But this is going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. Hey, look. That's it. We've given you enough sneak peeks on this. We'll be posting little bits and pieces as the year goes along. It's going to take us. I know Rob's got a lot of work involved. I'm still waiting for Andrew's story. So obviously the production, editing, everything, I think will take maybe the rest of this year. Definitely.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it out this year. I'm hoping, I'm keep my fingers crossed, Rob, that we get everything, all the elements and the pieces together. We put it together over the Christmas holiday season, whatever, and maybe launch 2024 with the special.
Maybe end of the year, maybe first of next year. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking first of next year is probably a safe bet. Yep.
Yeah. Conservative, as Scotty would say to Kirk. I can get it done, in an hour or whatever. He gets it done in 30.
Take me 5 hours, Captain. I'll get it to you in 2.5.
All right. So that's pretty much what we've got lined up. Obviously, we've got tons more books in the queue coming your way. Some really good stuff, some fun stuff. In fact, after Rob puts aside Volume 19, Sherlock Holmes, the next volume I want and hope he will tackle for us is going to be volume number 9 of Mystery Men and Women.
Okay.
Another best-selling series, and Rob's always done all the interior illustrations.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what I was going to be working on next. So this was this. We've talked about stuff, but I wasn't sure which one. Nancy Hansen's got another pirate.
And the pirate story, which will follow after that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and plus,
it's not like Rob doesn't have 100 other things to do.
Well, yeah, and I'm doing. I've got a book for Silverline Comics that we're going to probably be doing in the next year or so. I can't talk about what we're actually doing, but it'll once we do get started on it, we'll talk about it some more here. Also in the comic book field, Ron and I just released issue 1 of volume 2 of Boston Bombers. It's now up at we put it at Kablam I don't think it's quite. I don't think it's available at Indie Planet yet. It'll probably be another week or so before it finally goes up. They've got a long queue of books to put up, and I'm sure since we're headed into Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, Comic-Con International, I guess it's called. There's probably a lot of people wanting books published, printed up for that through Kablam. So they're probably busier than you know what.
Oh, they have to. They have to be. But yeah, and I'm really glad you brought up Boston Bombers. It's mind-boggling to me that book is now a reality. All right, that it's printed. That I got my copies from Kablam a few days ago, and holding it in my hands, Rob, was a weird feeling. I mean, Volume 1 was done almost 30 years ago. I mean, that's a long, long time, all right? And as much as, there was always in the back of my mind a hope that I could get back to that series and those characters, honestly didn't really believe that would happen. So, hey, goes to prove how wrong I can be. Excuse me.
When we collected the original one together to print it as a graphic novel, a black and white graphic novel, I read the thing as I was assembling it, and I'm going, there's more to this book. There's more. There's all this little stuff going on in this book, and I know there's another story coming after this one, but he had to stop because of all the problems with this, and we've talked about this book before. Because of all the problems they had with it, Ron found a spot to stop it, and then they could move on. But after I read it, I went, no, there's more to this. So I've been pestering him for years to get this done. And he was having trouble finding an artist, and back and forth. And finally, I said, "If I draw it, can we do it? Will you write it?" And of course, I think he was reeling me in, like he did on Daughter of Dracula. He set the hook and reeled me in. But yeah, it's been a fun book. He sent me the script to number 2. I have not read it yet. I'm going to sit down sometime this week and read it through and do my thumbnails for it, and I'll start wedging that in between everything else that I'm doing. But it's a fun book. If anybody who's read the first volume, this just follows right after that. If you haven't read the first volume, that's also available at Kablam, Indie Planet. I think we also have it up at Amazon, if I remember correctly. So you can get it there, but it's. Tell them what it's about, Ron. Describe it better.
The idea very simply. I wanted to do a pulp comic book. It was like I just started my comic book career by a couple of years as a professional, and so I was working for the Greenhorn, Terminator. I was doing those kind of things, and it came to the point where that's work for hire, and I had this itch to create my own series. So again, having a feel for pulps, I at that time was reading the Batum paperback reprints of the Doc Savage novels, right? And Doc and his team of adventurers, and I went, man, wouldn't it be cool if we had a female Doc Savage with a all-girl team, right? And then, of course, it was like, well, what if they're flyers? What if they're aviators? They travel the world. Okay, first step, that's a good idea. But then again, you're just going to be mimicking. It's just a one-trick pony, all right? Because you're doing – and so next thing came, well, what about an alternate world? And, man, did I open Pandora's box. Holy cannoli. Whoa. All right, because suddenly it was like, okay, so what if the Roman Empire never disappeared, i.e., part of it went into Africa, which is based on historical fact. There were expeditions, right? And then literally – were absorbed by the Maasai people, and suddenly that world has an actual Roman Empire still existing in southern Africa. Okay, nice. Okay, now we go. And then it was like, all right, well, again, this conversation revolves around, but being a practicing Catholic, right? It's my firm, honest, 100% belief that ultimately the Holy Spirit will. And trust me, the Holy Spirit takes thousands of years to work, but will ultimately one day, all right, ordain women priests. I believe that in my soul is whole, my prayers, okay? It's the Holy Spirit. But I'm thinking, but what if this world, that was true? What if the Messiah, Jesus, had been a woman? Whoa, does that change the dynamics of the church, right? Boom. And then what I failed to take into account, I'm writing the scripts, I'm writing ideas. When you do an alternate world adventure, if you're honest with yourself, the minute you change something socio-political, it has to change something else. It has to change something else. It has, and so that was it. Right. And so suddenly I'm creating this amazing world. Rob, I couldn't get it down on paper fast enough. I wrote 5 scripts within a period of 2 weeks. That's how fast I had to get it down on paper. Now I've got it. I send it to my then agent, Mike Friedrich, right? Mike calls me up and goes, the only thing you didn't put in this was the kitchen sink. He said, where the hell? I said, can you sell this thing? He goes, let me talk to Gary Reed at Caliber. And of course, the one and only publisher, really gifted, independent-minded, original publisher of those days was Gary Reed, the late Gary Reed. Gary read it and just basically personally called me and said, this is awesome. We'll find an artist and let's do this. And off we went. And that's how Boston Bombers got done. Sadly, after the first 3 issues, for other things we've talked about in the past, we lost our artist. And because we lost our artist, Gary couldn't make the schedule. We couldn't find somebody else to pick it up. And the series died after just 3 issues, whereas I still had the scripts for 4 and 5. And through a weird series of circumstances, 10, almost 15 years later, we got the last 2 done. And then Rob came along and said, let's collect them now. Let's put them together. And once we got the collection out, it was one of those things where, to this day, I still say, people ask you, Rob, they ask me all the time, what's your best comic book? What's the best thing you've ever done? Stuff like that. And I think Bombers is fights tooth and nail for me as far as being the best thing I've ever written. All right. Because it's so complete. The characters are 3-dimensional. There's depth, all of them. All right. And the plot itself is world spanning. So here we go.
It's fascinating. It really is. To get into this world he's created. Yeah.
Rob is a handful of readers who saw the subplot. All right, it's there. The clues are there. I've given them, and towards the end of the fifth episode, there's a major clue that a lot of people will look at as a misspelling, but is not. Okay, and so basically that was it. Rob was like, we got to get Boston Bombers finished, i.e., tell the second story, which completes the entire story. And so that was it. I sat down. I took our collected volume because it was 30 years since I'd lived in this world. I had to reread it carefully. I was taking notes while I was reading my own work, right? But then when I started writing the pages, the script, as Rob, has commented several times in the past on this show, again, I was back in that hyper speed. All right. Issue 1 takes off like a mad bull out of the gate. Yeah. All right. Which is what it had to do. You need to grab the readers. All right. I'm hoping to continue a more subdued pace and now build up to more action. The next issue, as Rob is going to learn, and maybe the 3rd issue, are going to be setting pieces in place like a chessboard. But once we get to issue number 3, we're going to ramp up again, start heading for that conclusion, which I hope will be a major payoff for everybody who's ever read Boston.
4 issues? We never discussed how many it was going to be, 4 or 5.
4. We did 5 the first time. I'm gonna let it play out. I'm a firm believer in stories that are organic. All right.
The first issue was 30 pages. The second one, I think, is 27.
27
pages. So we got a few pages we got to fill. Yeah, we can do that with pinups and stuff. But so I was going, how many issues is this going to be? Because we hadn't really discussed that. So I'm going, it's going to have to be at least 4.
Right, minimum of 4. It conceivably could go to 5. Last thing, again, it's one of those things as a writer, and when I teach writing classes, it's the idea, like I said, I'm a firm believer that every story has its proper length. Mm-hmm. So if we get to 4 and I've wrapped up the plots and we're done and it works, then it'll end at 4. If it hasn't wrapped up the plots, if the characters need space to breathe and tell their stories honestly, then we'll go to 5. Because again, every chapter I'm writing, and as Rob said, I never looked at page counts writing that first issue. I just had the story. So it ended at 30. Well, I'm writing script number 2, and I'm in that whole section, which is so vital to what this is all about, why we've done this series. All right, this is now we're starting to reveal the secret, the hidden plot element. All right. And basically it ends up being something like, a bunch of talking heads, which I hate, which I despise, because Rob's going to draw this, right? But then it's like page 26, 27, and I said, and I still haven't gotten to the crux, but this was necessary. And so it came to the point where, no, stop it right here. Stop it. You've given them enough. Stop it right here. Allowing me to get back to the narrative in script number 3, and now tell the story of one of these characters, the Cardinal Perel. Tell her a story completely, with leaving me room in 3 to get back to Princess Augusta and what's happening, and pumping up some action, and away we go. But the talking heads bit was a case of, this is vital to the story. We can't get away from it. If I don't tell it, I'm not telling the story honestly. So there you go.
That should be interesting. Well, but here's the thing. I'm used to doing talking heads because I did the Star Trek stuff for DC and Malibu, and there was a lot of talking heads in that. Television shows are talking heads. There's some action, but you've got to have that interplay between the characters. That's what's going on. So I've got a little experience on how to deal with that. So, but I haven't read it yet, but you've told me that you've actually worked it out so that I can do some interesting things visually with it. We'll see. Once I get it read, I'll know what you're talking about. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my job as a writer, I think, is just that: is to basically find a way to make it visually inspiring to you, that you can latch on to things visually. All right, even with talking heads. Okay, so we go from that. You do it extremely well. Gary Cotto does that well.
Yeah,
Jeff Butler, when I worked with him. Okay, good artists know how to make even the most boring page look exciting and fun. So congratulations with that. I seeing the first issue is phenomenal. You nailed it. You know these characters. You have an affinity for them, and that comes out in every single page. So I hope when it is actually available for sale at Indie Planet, both of us will post that link all over the internet.
Post it on Facebook and all over the place because But I mean, we will have it. I just ordered my copies. They should be coming. So the next show I've got is the Daytona Beach Comic-Con in September. So if anybody's at that, they can come by the table and pick up some copies of that. I don't know when your next appearance is. The Denver thing, is that in?
No. Actually, we're doing FOCO in August.
That's right. I forgot.
Right here in Fort Collins. So I will have my copies at that show as well.
The Fort Collins area, you can drop by and pick up a copy from Ron there because he bought a bunch. So
do me a favor, please, and I'm guessing. I'll try and outguess you, but at the end of every show, especially this one, you're going to have the covers for the pulp, the Airship 27 time.
Absolutely.
Add the cover to Boston Bombers one.
Yeah, I didn't want us to. Yeah, you didn't put this on the paperwork. This particular discussion we've just had about Boston Bombers, you didn't have it on here at all. But I thought, hey, we just finished this thing. We got to talk about it, and we've. Like a third of the show now I'm talking about it.
But hey, in all honesty, it is a pulp comic, so it belongs here.
Exactly. And I'm having a blast drawing it, and Ron obviously is having a blast writing it. So it's worth if you're interested in pulp type storytelling, this book's right up your alley, because it's right up our alley. I'm having a blast. Ron's having a blast.
Thank you.
So
all right. Hey, I thank you publicly. And now let's get to Ron's.
Now that we've had all the fun, now we got to put up with the joke.
I've been keeping this one for over a month now in the back of my head. Here's the kicker. It's not as long as yours, buddy, but I trust you'll enjoy it.
Mine was pretty short. I usually try to get a longer joke than that, but this one had such a great punchline.
It did. Okay, so here's my story, okay? Ralph discovers that the next day is going to be bring your child to work day. So sure enough, he comes to work that next day with his 8-year-old little girl, Sally. And they're walking around the cubicles, and he's introducing her to the people he works with and other people. And as they're walking along, right, this goes on for about 20 minutes or so, and he looks down, and Sally's looking around, and all of a sudden he sees a frown on her face. She starts to sniffle. He stops dead in his track, right, and he gets down on one knee, and she's starting to cry a little bit. And some of the people in the cubicle hear it, and they all come out, and he holds her arm and says, "Sally, dear, what's the matter?" And she looks at him, and she goes, Daddy, she goes, "Where are all the clowns you told Mommy you work with?"
She was expecting this.
Okay. I love that. And that's one of those I told Valerie, and Valerie split a gut. She's almost spit out her coffee. She goes, "Oh, you got to tell that one on the show." I said, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, once again, Loyal Airman, thank you. Thank you for hanging around with us and sharing some of this. And again, thank you for your support. All right. There wouldn't be any Airship 27 without every one of you. And we thank you sincerely from the heart. So
sorry for taking so long to get back to you. But Ron went on vacation. I went on vacation to Washington D.C. Plus we had books in the queue, and we were waiting on covers, and we were waiting on illustrations, and blah 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 blah. It just took forever for us to get. So we don't want to come on here and just twiddle our thumbs, as Ron mentioned earlier. We want to come on and actually talk about substantive things.
There you go.
But yeah.
Okay, buddy. You sign us
off.
out. Back. All right. Sign us off.
This is Chief Engineer Rob Davis signing off.
And after a long time, I'm very happy to say, down ship.